this was a team we knew we could beat, and this was a team that we did beat before by a decent amount. It wasn't a 20-point blowout, but it was still a double digit win. Still, unless you're able to do it again, my skeptical self kind of still wondered if it was just flash in the pan. I think after this game, the way we came back and competed, it's pretty safe to say that we are outright the better team, no debate. Um, Last game we had on tape was a loss, and so of course there was a lot of things to talk about for that video slash breakdown. So it's easy to assume that coming off back-to-back wins, someone can think there's not really much to discuss or contemplate. Um, which I really hope that that no one's thinking like that. Um, like I said in the group chat, ultimately our defense and persistence got us back in the game. Um, but there's still stuff as a team we can work on together and to be better on both sides of the ball. But yeah, like last video, I have some instances to go over in both good and areas of improvement based on how we play as a team. Um, so starting with offense, uh, more specifically starting with the good offensive possessions. First, I want to preface by saying, um, just kind of a general thought. So basically, at any kind of level of basketball, like the what I view the key for a good offensive possession is to able to consistently create these three things: creating mismatches, and this isn't like big versus small. It can also be if someone's faster than someone's stronger than someone. It doesn't have to be just height related. Winning closeouts, obviously. Um, if you're able to attack a closeout or shoot if the guy is not closing out good enough, or making two guard one, or slash one guard zero. So basically, what it means by that is like if you're able to create an instance where two of the defenders are one of us, or one of them is guarding no one, basically. So a good example for to making two guard one is when you're driving and you're attracting help, you're making two people guard one person. That's and you're able to pull off that. That's good. That's good offense. Or like let's say you're cutting and your guy is trailing you. That means your guy's not guarding no one. So that's one guard zero. That's what kind of that means. Neither of these three are more important than the other one, but they can interact with each other. Um, and the foundation of these three is great spacing. That's why I keep going on about spacing. Um, because spacing creates gaps and gaps create good offense. So everything in the system, the slides, the videos, all that, in terms of our offense, the aim is to create a offensive system for us to consistently be able to generate these three scenarios. We have our system. Other teams have other systems based on their personnel, but the aim for any team, and when I talk about good offense, aim for any team when running offense can always be traced back to this. But starting with the first clip, since we're starting off a good offense, this might just be like one of our first possessions. So Kevin breaks it, of course. But this is overall good offense because after Steven passed, he screened away, which what he should have done. Brian popped up, um, gave his attracted help defense, then kicked out to Zach. I'll let it play. So Brian attracted two people on him. So right now there's two people on Brian. It was Stevens rolling. He could have hit Steven if he wanted to as well. But he kicked out to Zach because it looked like Zach's guy was focused on the ball. So now you have like kind of three people on the ball. Um, so Brian kicks out to Zach, and then Zach finds open Kevin for a shot. That's overall good. That's overall good offense. And you're able to see just how much the defense moved just based on very, very minimal amount of work. Just solely on passing and off-ball movement and a tentful drive. So being able to move the defense solely off those three things should always be the priority. Um, Next clip, I think this is perfect driving kick action from Eric. It's right there. Eric drives. He attracts two people. Kicks out. Open shot. He misses it. It was fine. If we're able to generate shots like these, and we're missing, it shouldn't be like a indicator to do something different. If this is, it's still good offense is good offense, and at this point, the process matters more than the result. Um, so yeah, drive. It could be as simple as driving and kick until you see resistance, um, and then kicking out. That's how simple offense can be. Obviously, it's not gonna be always that simple. That's why we have all these other actions and stuff we get into. But if you have someone that's that can't stop you from getting in the paint, and they have to help, then you just keep driving and kicking. Um, the next scenario. So this is also, a perfect example of making two guard one. Now, although this was created through a ball screen, and you guys know like there's not really much defined ball screen action in 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 the offense, the ball handler can always call for a ball screen at any time. So that's fine. My main problem is with unprovoked ball screens and ball screens that make it easy for them to defend us. But it looks like they were in a zone here. I don't know if that was the reason why he called for a ball screen, but immediately after the ball screen, he got the switch. But it looked like they still wanted to 58 still wanted to stay on him, and so this led to having getting two on the ball, and obviously Kevin was wide open, and again doesn't make it, but it's overall good offense because we're able to generate that help defense and get an easy shot. Again, it's important to highlight that even though these are misses, the process behind it is still good offense. Um, what makes this good offense is even though it's a zero pass possession, um, Josh's guy is sagging, and him sagging means he's leaving himself a lot of room for to have to close out and to contest that shot. So you can kind of view this as winning a closeout or making one guard zero, or whichever you want. But yeah, if your guy is sagging, if he's letting you shoot that, then you can just that's always going to be it's always going to be good offense no matter what. Um, Obviously, good zero pass possessions aren't ideal, but again, we have to take what the defense gives you, and so if you see your guy sagging, then there's absolutely no problem with just taking that shot. Alright, moving on to the bad offensive parts. So when I say these clips are bad offense, first of all, I'm judging them on how we're executing the offensive system and all that, but I'm also basing them on these four truths as well. Great spacing, things two got one, mismatches, win closeout. So if none of that is happening or very minimal of that is happening, then that's what I mean when I'm talking about bad offense. But first of all, I'm firstly judging them based on how executing the system, and then you know if that's in addition to that, I'm also judging on those four things as well. So I mean, starting off, this clip is not too terrible. Like the idea was there. I say not too terrible because this was a good idea. Um, Once again, Steven passes it, and then he screens away. But Kevin passes it too early. Only reason why I want to highlight this, even though the idea was good, is because we want to make sure that when we want to be wary of when we pass it after like an off-ball action. Um, Last thing you want to do is pass it too early. You kind of want to pass it to right when the player establishes like an advantage. Advantage could be like when a player is able to turn the corner. If Eric was able to turn the corner and go, then Kevin probably would have passed it to him, or if he was able to catch and shoot. Um, So that's the only reason why I'm highlighting this clip is because um, although the idea of passing quickly um, is always good, when you have an outball action like this, um, it's always good. It's preferred to let the well, you should let the play develop. Um, and also in this clip, it looks like only two players were involved off the ball, which is okay. So after Steven does the away screen, it looks like it's only kind of Eric coming. It's hard to tell because it ends up in a turnover. But I would really like us to do more circle motion on those top to wing passes, um, because it involves in this instance it's really only Eric and Steven involved in that alpha action. But with circle motion, it gets three people involved as opposed to two. Um, So how it actually looks like on like the drawing board is after this kind of flipped, because Steven passed it over here, but it's the same principle. After Steven would have passed it to Kevin, he would kind of jam up this side for Eric to curl, and whoever was over here in the corner to kind of spot up. So circle motion always ends up having one guy jamming, screening, usually the guy who passes it. One guy cutting to the basket, and one guy spotting up in the perimeter. Usually in that order. Um, Usually pairing in that order, and that forces defense to make tough decisions. So a good example would be here. So in here, passes made from top, top to wing, and then he's not really like screening. He doesn't really have to screen. His main role is to kind of jam up this side, allowing the wing player who was here to cut number 10 to cut for an easy basket that's open, and for the guy in the corner to spot up just in case. And so that was a instance of where the guy who passed it didn't even have to screen. He just kind of jammed up. Um, Similar in this instance as well. After this is kind of more representative of what happened in the game in that clip. So Steven passed it to the left wing, so top the wing pass, and then after you pass, you kind of jam up this side, and that wing player, he doesn't curl, but he sees his man kind of cheat. So instead of curling, he does a backdoor cut and establishes inside positioning. Meanwhile, the guy in the corner, this guy in the corner, is still sputting up over here, and the guy who passed it is still kind of jamming up this side, and he ends up getting a easy layup opportunity. Again, that guy the guy who passed it didn't really have to screen. He's kind of jammed up. And here, the guy actually does screen. He sets an actual hard screen, similar to what Steven did. Only difference is that this guy actually curled off the screen for an easy layup. Again, that guy in the corner always comes here to spot up, just in case. So essentially, the key is it ends up in the circle pattern, meaning the players are kind of rotating to find an advantage. So let's say Steven again passes to Kevin. He would kind of jam up over here. You can either set a screen or not, but the key is to have kind of this area kind of be jammed up. That way it creates cutting opportunity for number 3, and for 5 to kind of spot up over here, creating that kind of circle, if that makes sense. And ultimately, if nothing's there, you can reset, pass, 2 can pass it back to 5. You can reset here, and now we have 5 from the top, as opposed to when they were in the corner. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about circle motion from those top to wing passes. Sometimes as a passer, if you feel your defender is sleeping or switching too early after the pass, you can slip. Like in this instance, so after the pass, he doesn't, the passer doesn't jam. He feels his guy is sleeping, so he cuts the paint instead. And when that happens, the other 2 players recognize that. So the corner guy and the wing guy recognize that. So now the wing guy becomes the jammer, and now the corner guy, stays with his role and just stays as the guy who spots up. So that's what I want us to do more of. Kind of have off-ball actions involving three people as opposed to just two. But two is fine. It's um, as long as we're getting some off-ball action after a pass. Um, but yeah, that's what kind of the first bad offense clip I want to highlight is just mostly just focus on execution. But the idea was not bad from this clip. So another not too terrible clip. Um, so we got Brian, of course, calling for set play two, which is Zoom. Earnest attempt, but the key to the whole thing about that makes this play dangerous is that the play that the player that the play is designated for, usually a guy in the corner. So in this case, it will be Steven. Um, is coming from the corner to the top with some speed and some kind of I don't want to say urgency, but like some kind of pace. Um, and what makes it so dangerous because is the defender has to fight against two screens, so you guys have to fight against the screen from or the pin down from the wing, and then ultimately the handoff from the guy. So here Bryant does a handoff a little bit too early, but again Steven kind of stops at the wing area um, when he should have actually met Brian up with the handoff. Um, so the key thing, there should be emphasis on speed and obstruction. So basically, you want to have Steven's guy, who is this guy, have to fight through two screens and have to kind of kind of suffer to contest the shot. Um, how it should look is more like this. So imagine this is Brian, this is Kevin, this is Steven. So comes off one screen, nice hard screen, and then he meets the handoff man at the top for easy shot. So basically, that's how it should look like. Um, there should be um, the focus should be on obstructing the defender and giving the receiver an advantage. But again, it was a good attempt, and I'm just glad that we were able to recognize what two meant. Um, but yeah, another not too terrible clip. I know it ended up with us getting a turnover, but I just wanted to kind of point that out, um, just as like a way of showing places where we can execute the system better. So, this is what I was talking about when I was referring to mindless ball screens or unprovoked ball screens. First off, somehow we end up with only one guy on the left side, which is fine. And honestly, Steven could have just kicked it to Zach to force them to see them rotate. Um, but ultimately, Kevin's ball screen doesn't really amount to nothing. It just shrinks the floor. Um, main reason why I want to stray away. Main reason why I don't like unprovoked ball screens. Most of the time, it doesn't create any advantage for us in these leagues. The main benefit of a ball screen is to use it to create an instance where the defender has to help, another defender has to help. So basically, getting two guarding one, or to force a mismatch switch. It becomes more difficult for us to generate those two things, those two outcomes, given our lack of explosion, pace, and height, which is why ball screens really work from us. Obviously, when we play pickup amongst ourselves, it's less apparent. But in these leagues, I found that off-ball screens are way more beneficial in undersized teams like us in generating good offense than on-ball screens. This is why our whole offensive system has like basically no ball screen action aside from set play one. I like DHOs way better than ball screens because with those you're executing it on the move and forcing the defense to move. Plus you sometimes low-key get away with setting a moving screen since the handoff man is dribbling before he sets that screen. Um, but yeah, it's very rare that we're able to get defense moving through on-ball screens, as you see in here. Like the guy just kind of fights over the screen, and um, no, there's no advantage that was created during that. Um, I think this next instance as well is another instance of of bad ball screen action. Now, the reason why it makes this bad, or actually what makes this worse than the other clip, is that Josh just kind of ends up just standing there after the screen when he could have rolled, could have spotted up over here, or create some type of space um, for Eric to make a decision. With any type of screen, whether that be off ball or on ball, ideally you want to kind of follow the rule of opposites. So if the ball handler is driving to the paint with the help of a ball screen or a screen, then the screener pops. If the ball handler is preparing himself to pull up and shoot with the help of a screen, then the screener rolls. Just standing there after your screen, yes, we're able to end up creating a switch, getting 61 on Eric, but ultimately there wasn't that much advantage because the guy who initially was ending up guarding Eric is the guy that gets the strip off him. So if you're gonna do is you're gonna set a ball screen first, it should always be based on what the ball handler wants. Um, but if we do set a ball screen, we always gotta remember the rule opposites. You know, that way we're always either attacking space or the basket, one of the two. Like if the ball handler is driving, screener pops. Ball handler is about to pull up, screener rolls, that thing. But yeah, just sitting there after the screen, even though defense switched off it, we can't really create any advantage off that. And in fact, you know we create a turnover off that. Now, what's wrong in this clip probably happens within like the first like 2 seconds, and that's you know Kevin passing and then just standing still. Um, Sometimes we all do this. I do this sometimes. Everyone does this. We tend to shut off our brain after we pass the ball or when we don't have the ball. Um, our offense relies a lot on spacing drives and off-ball movement. So first, when we get the ball, we should already know which of the three decisions, whether that be shooting open shot, attacking the basket, or passing, we're kind of leaning towards. That means when we don't have the ball, we have to kind of avoid switching our brains off and not thinking about the next play. The ball still goes on we don't have the ball. The more we start thinking off the ball, the better our offense will be as a whole. After you pass, your mentality should be, what can I do to create advantage for a teammate that doesn't have the ball? How can I get a teammate without the ball open? Sometimes it is spacing the floor, especially if the ball goes in the paint. But for those side-to-side perimeter passes, like Kevin does here, remember the rules and principles in the system. So in this instance, Kevin did a corner to wing pass. So he should have exited to the other side via baseline. You see, Josh ends up going to him anyways, and Kevin just kind of follows him. And although this creates two people on the ball, Kevin following Josh with the ball doesn't create any advantage. Now Zach is also camping in the paint, so that's another thing wrong. But Zach doing this makes two people guard him. So you got the big who was kind of camping in the paint, as well as the guy behind him. So that's not as bad as opposed to Kevin, who just staying still and then just mindlessly follows Josh dribbling. Afterwards, our spacing gets fucked up. No one's over here. Our spacing gets fucked up, and ends up in a turnover. Um, but yeah, we most of the easy, I would say a good number, 60% of the shots we should aim to generate should be based on should be created based on off ball movement. Um, these were two very stagnant possessions. Um, and they both end up with back to back middies. First one kind of open. This one kind of open. I mean, this guy 91 could not stand in front of him, so that's basically a mismatch in itself. Um, but the second one is a tough shot from Josh. Um, both are obviously ISO type, you know, shot attempts, which is fine. I mean, there's always it's always about balance when it comes to offense. Like sometimes you have to get a bucket. I understand that, and if you're a good driver like Josh, like Brian, like Eric, um, there is a place and time for you to get your own shot, solely based on um, your own skill. But we don't want to fall into the trap of relying too much on ISO scoring. Um, and initially as well, I think I could kind of congest. I also congest the floor by just I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. So that kind of makes it hard. I think I'm initially trying to set a screen, an off-ball screen, for Alexis, but it ends up amounting to nothing. Um, and again, I gotta do better there, especially since my man was kept in the paint and they were playing zone. Um, and kind of looking back, knowing that a good chunk of the game they were kind of in zone or fake zone or whatever, we should have collectively realized that and kind of played towards that. I should have recognized that and called it out. Um, but I think that just goes along with me not actively assessing their defense and kind of realizing that sooner. So, yeah, I gotta do better in that aspect. Yeah, this this is obviously wild from Eric. Um, Not only is it a tough shot, um, and obviously, like I said before, there's it's basketball. There's gonna be instances where you're gonna need to create, make a tough shot or create a tough shot. But there was multiple kick opportunities in this instance. Um, like I said, I recognize that sometimes you have to take tough shots, but you have to be wary not to fall into the trap of relying on it, because then having to, when we start accumulating a lot of ISO tough shots, a lot of zero pass possessions, that's when the offense gets really stagnant. Um, but like I said, just want to highlight it because tough shots as an idea is not the worst. I mean, some of the greatest basketball moments are through tough shots, but collectively as a team, um, we don't want to rely way too much on. I mean, look, he ends up. I mean, this is yeah. I mean, not much can be said about that. Now, our defense was probably what was most impressive in my opinion in terms of the overall like completeness of how we play defense. Um, but yeah, starting with the good. Yeah, so basically how how we basically defend as a team in general. We know that you know no middle drives or penetration is our priority, and we want to make sure the ball really touches the middle. But when it does touch the middle, we should always rotate as a team to help. Um, and this obviously ends up uh, leading to one of our many transition opportunities. Um, so depending on how good teams are in terms of kicking out, we always want to make sure that that ball never, or very rarely, um, touches the middle. I think this instance is also another good example right there. I don't know who got beat off the dribble, but someone gets beat off the dribble, and then Sonny recognizes that and kind of stunts, um, and recognizes this, and kind of pokes at the ball. Obviously, it leaves this guy in the corner open, but it doesn't. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because the most important thing is to stop that middle drive. So again, very 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 smart. In this instance, was more on Sonny realizing this. And obviously, the first clip was more team defense in general. But overall, like compared to obviously compared to the first team, this team is less skilled. But these same principles can be applied um, to just overall how we approach defense. I wanna highlight this because it's probably my favorite defensive kind of instance, and solely based on the bad stuff defensively we did. Um, but this is overall great defense from Steven. Obviously his man's in the corner. He's kind of sagging behind, and when he closes out, he doesn't jump. He stays grounded. He's ready for the blow by, and uses the baseline to kind of force his man out of bounds. Again, we wanna drive. We want to force all drives to the side, corner, baseline, exactly for these moments here. Because not only can we force them out of bounds, we can also it also increases the difficulty of the pass they have to do in order to get out of there. And so especially when it gets to that corner spot, you can use the kind of baseline as like a kind of a second or sixth defender, um, and sometimes able to push a man out of bounds, sometimes able to initiate the double team. But yeah, we want to make sure that we prioritize not having nothing in the middle and pushing everything to the side. So only the main room of improvement to comment on. I'm going to the bad stuff by the way. Main room of improvement to comment on was us being way way too keen on getting a steal or block. Against this team, we didn't get punished as much. I mean, we still got punished. I mean, over here, Kevin really gets punished. I mean, Jesus Christ, letting this guy cook him like that. But um, Kevin is way too reactive in his post defense. So I mean, this is fine initially. Establishing contact is fine initially, but then he kind of lets the guy dictate where he wants to go. Um, so he comes in too strong, gets spun, and obviously tries to go for the block. And this is a common common thing that Kevin does. But we want to prioritize contesting the shot, but we don't want to also give away our positioning. Stevens' closeout example was a great instance of of doing that. He closed out, but he didn't jump. He stayed grounded, all that stuff. Waited for the blow by, used the baseline for help, and ultimately got a stop. But yeah, that's kind of like the main um, kind of complaint towards our defense. I think there's another instance here from Zach. So yeah, Zach plays for the block and not the contest. Ends up getting blow by. Let me go back again. Plays for the block, the contest, ends up getting blow by, and we can see the end one. So I mean, looking back, when you look at this, you kind of obviously know, oh, I shouldn't have jumped all that stuff. So it's not much what you say, but again, it is something that um, it is an area of improvement that we should be wary of um, in regards of our defense this game. This clip is funny because this was early in the game, um, which is crazy. But obviously this is bad bad screen defense, bad recovery. So it starts off obviously. Um, Zach's guy, the big guy, sets a screen, and then nothing is said, but Zach immediately switches, um, and then Steven kind of lets the big guy roam in the paint free. So again, ball watching plus lack of communication. This is where communication is important on ball screens. Like, are we switching? Am I fighting over the screen? Am I going under? And here Zach switched, but Steven wasn't aware. Nothing was called. End up conceding an easy point. Um, yeah. So and here, obviously, this is ball watching for me. As that ball goes up in the free throw, I don't think I look at my guy once. My face just stays in the ball. Um, instead of identifying my box out, which would have been him, I keep my eyes on the ball the whole way, lose position, and concede the old board. Um, it's important to highlight this because the less we ball watch, the more it would compete on the glass. This should have been an easy rebound for me to secure. Even though I'm tallish, me ball watching led to me failing to secure the rebound, and obviously in here it doesn't lead to anything, but against an actual dangerous team that could have been really costly. So facing a team we know we're better than can sometimes unconsciously lead us to complacency. I don't want to say complacency is the reason this game was closer. Obviously, they shot better, a lot better this game. Another factor has probably contributed to it being a closer game than last time, but it was obviously not our sharpest performance. Um, we're more than halfway into the season. It's really time for us to get this system and principles to a good enough spot for us to challenge for the title. I say challenge because after watching us play, I know we can do it. I know we can do it. Um, we know which team will probably make it to the final, and the closest game we had with them was the one where we played them after another team. So again, it's hard to kind of diagnose how far away we are from them, but the system is there to give us a competitive edge. Um, and so I think before playoffs, I want to make sure that we have it nailed down. So, like right, and that's why. And these extra videos I added to the playlist. All of them are short. Um, I don't want to call them extra because I feel like all of them are important to watch. Because again, in terms of offense, most of our um, most of our offense is predicated off of off ball movement, driving, attacking closeouts, off ball screens, all that stuff. Um, so giving it a quick rundown. Any pass you make along the perimeter, you should always do an action away from the pass. So a prime example is the top to wing pass. So if you're passing a top to wing, first assess how many people are in the opposite direction you pass. So if I'm one passing to three, there's two people opposite direction in me, meaning that I can do circle. I should do circle. And circle basically meaning after you pass, you kind of jam up this side, two curls around, four spots up, and then you fill if nothing's there. Um, so after you pass along the perimeter, check the opposite direction you're passing to. How many people are there? If there's two, you can do circle. If there's only one, for instance, let's say you're three and you pass it to four, opposite direction of your pass is obviously over here, and there's only one person there, so you can't do circle. So what you would do, you set an away screen, and then based on what the guy you're screening does, you do opposite. So if five pops up, you roll, vice versa. So always having some off-ball movement after you pass. And dribbling, always the intent. When you're dribbling, always the intent is to attack the basket as fast as you can, as fast as you can. You don't want to dribble side to side. And if we do decide to dribble side to side, if you dribble to someone's spot, that guy should be either back cutting or getting a handoff from you. Um, so everything we do is intentful and purposeful. And obviously there's two plays. There's the set play two, which is zoom, which I went over. Set play one is basically circle motion, but um, so for instance, if you're running set play one for three, sorry, I kind of a lisp for three. For well, obviously we run a normal circle motion, and instead of two popping up, you see the screen. This is the only ball screen instance we have in our offense that's actually defined, aside from the ball handler calling for a screen. Um, but yeah, um, everything is talked more in detail in the slides and in the actual videos I made. The videos I didn't make are stuff to help solidify the concepts. But ultimately, um, for us to really compete, I believe, we have to be better, not as individuals, but as a collective.